Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Cooking the Code. Today we are covering another super important JavaScript concept, shallow copy versus deep copy. If you've ever modified an object and seen unexpected changes in another object, you might have run into issues with copying objects in JavaScript. This is mainly addressed by shallow copying and deep copying. By the end of the video, you will know the difference between shallow copying and deep copying and how to use them correctly. So yeah, let's dive in. So what exactly is a shallow copy? Okay, so at the end of the day, a shallow copy and deep copy are both used for the same case, which is creating copies, okay, of an object. Okay, so the main difference is that a shallow copy creates a new object, but the nested objects inside it still reference the original object's memory. What do I mean by that? Let's understand it with an example. Okay, so this is the example that I have. An object person1. Okay, it has a first name property, okay, which says Walter. Then it has an address property that in turn takes an object. Okay, so as you can see, this is the nested object that I was talking about in the definition. Okay, when I said the nested object inside it still references the original object's memory, this is the nested object. Okay, so nested essentially means something within another, right? So nested object would mean an object inside another object. Okay, so let's quickly create a shallow copy. So now there are many ways of creating shallow copies, okay, but one of the most standard way of doing that is using the object.assign method. Okay, you can even use the spread operator. Okay, so this assign object essentially it takes two values. One is, as you all can see, it takes hold on, what just happened? Okay, just a second. Okay, it's showing the complete documentation, but yeah, so one thing to remember is, okay, so the object.assign takes two properties. One is the target and one is the source. Okay, since we want to put all the objects from the source into an empty object, right? We want to transfer all the details into an empty object, right? We keep this as an empty object over here, and this is the source. Source is the object that we want to create the shallow copy from. Okay, now let me quickly print both. Okay, so both should have the same details, right? Let's see what our output has. So we have two objects that have the exact same details. Okay, now, so in a way we have created a copy, right? And that is what the copy in shallow copy means. Okay, now let's say I go to person2, okay, and I change the first name property from Walter. Let's say I change it to Heisenberg. Okay, so ideally what should happen, right? Just for the change that I'm making is person2.first name, and I'm changing it to Heisenberg. So ideally what should happen, we should see this exact same output, but just the only difference will be first name will have the value of Heisenberg instead of Walter. Okay, so let's see if that is the case. Okay, yeah, and as you can see, that is the exact case that we have. Okay, so there is no problem, right? We have two different copies, and if we edit one copy, the other copy is unaffected, right? But this is where the problem with shallow copies arise. Okay, now watch out. Okay, if I do something like person2, and this is where the in the definition I mentioned, right, the nested object inside it still references the original object's memory, right? So if I take the nested object, what is the nested object over here, right? If you see nested object, if you remember, an object within an object, right? So this is the nested object. Okay, so if I take the address, okay, and I change the state to, let's say, California. Okay, change it to anything, it doesn't matter. Okay, now note, I have changed the first name to Heisenberg, which we did previously, but now what did I do additionally is I changed the address of person2, and the state property in the address object of person2. Person1 again is unaffected. Okay, so what should be the output? Okay, let's see. And yeah, that's the issue that we can see. Although I haven't changed anything for person1 in the state property for the address, it still has updated from New Mexico to California, right? And you all can see the complete code. Okay, nothing, no change, nothing at all. person 1 is unaffected. Okay, and this is exactly the problem that exists with shallow copying. If there is a nested property, okay, like this nested object, then there can be issues over there. Okay, so this is a way to create a shallow copy. Another way of creating a shallow copy is if we did person 2, and if we use something called as the spread operator. Okay, 3 dots person 1. Okay, I can create a detailed video on rest and spread in the future. Okay, for now just understand it is a way of creating a shallow copy. Okay, and we'll have the, but you know what, we'll have the exact same problem. Okay, we'll have this exact same problem even then. Okay, as you can see, person 1's address property that has the state property got updated, which it should not have. Only this should have been updated in person 2. Okay, if there is no nested object, then there is no issues, right? Like for first name. Okay, but in the case of nested object, there is an issue. Okay, and this exactly is fixed using the concept of deep copying. And that's where deep copy comes in. Okay, a deep copy, just like a shallow copy, also creates a new object, but the difference is that even the nested objects that are inside of the source object, they do not have any references to the older object or the source object. Okay, so problems like these are avoided in deep copies. Okay, there are 2 ways of creating a deep copy. Okay, one is you use clone deep method from Lodash. Okay, but not everyone has Lodash. Okay, and the best way to create a deep copy is using this method that I'm going to talk about. Okay, so you take person 2, we'll take the same, and what we'll do is we'll use this method, structured clone. Okay, of person 1. Okay, so now if you see, after running this code, okay, as you can see, even though we had not changed anything for person 1, the state changed from New Mexico to California. We changed for person 2, which should have happened, but we didn't change for person 1. But now using deep copy, this problem will be avoided. Okay, we just go through that. Okay, node script.js. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, it's clearly avoided. Okay, so this is the best way to create a deep copy. Okay, there are people who say that there is another way to create a deep copy using this particular method, JSON.stringify. Okay, and then you take person 1 and then you wrap it and you parse the entire string. Okay, so this will also give you the same output. Okay, so as you can see, we got the same output, right? This didn't get changed. Okay, but the problem with this particular method is this works well with strings, but let's say if you have something like date of birth. Okay, let me just create a date object. Okay, if you do something like that, okay, let's say there was a date object which is, let's say it is there in your, while creating a copy. Okay, so as you can see the problem, okay, if you look closely, the over here it is in the correct format, but over here it has been converted to a string. Okay, so if you're okay with that trade-off, you all can even use this. Okay, this problem does not exist in structured clone. Okay, as you can see, I'll just show you. Notice this has the string marks in person 2. Okay, CLS, but over here it does not have that issue. Okay, so according to me, the best way to create a deep clone is using structured clone or using a Lodash utility. Okay, like you know, there is a clone deep method that I spoke about, right? Or you can write your own function, right? Okay, so now you know the differences between a shallow copy and a deep copy in JavaScript. As mentioned earlier, shallow copy does not take nested objects very well. It has problems while copying nested objects, as in it has references even in the new object to the old object, which can be a problem in certain scenarios. Deep copy solves that problem. Okay. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more such useful tutorials, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. See you again in the next one, and let me know in the comment section if you all did not understand or if there is any topic you all want me to cover. Till then, happy coding and see you in the next one.